This episode is sponsored by JDAQA Software Testing, your scalable solution for manual, automated, security, and performance testing. Check us out at jdaqa.com. And with that, let's get on with the show.
This is The First Customer, hosted by Jay Agner.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the First Customer Podcast. My name is Jay Agner. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Drew Sechrist. He is the CEO and co-founder of one of my new favorite platforms, Connect the Dots. Drew, hello.
Hi, Jay, and that makes me very happy to hear that we're one of your new favorite platforms.
I mean, and I don't say that to anybody because I don't mean it when I say it to anybody other than you right now. I'm a relationship guy. And as a relationship guy, you can feel like you're doing sales wrong very easily, right? Like you can be like, I'm just not doing the same stuff that the annoying guy who's banging your door down and getting sales is doing. So maybe I'm doing it the wrong way. I'm not going to, say that this platform like validates that approach, but I will say like it solves a piece of the puzzle that I've always wondered why LinkedIn doesn't do natively, or like what there's so many pieces where it's just like you have this network and you guys pull from other things than just LinkedIn, which is great. But it just seems like a problem that should have been solved somehow within these ecosystems. And you guys pulled it all together and you started to answer some questions that this is like, we talked about Crossbeam, right? Crossbeam's the business equivalent of this, and we didn't have one for a personal connection. So the same partnership kind of exercises we tried to run on Crossbeam, and I love Bob Moore, and that's a great product for a very specific kind of bigger company than us. Yours is much more approachable for small business and for even mid-market and for whatever, but the value is there for me because I don't have 50 sales reps that need to see what status somebody else's sales reps on some other team are, like Crossbeam, which is great for that level of visibility. I just need to know, hey, who the hell knows the guy that I want to talk to? That's it. Because that's my strategy. So I love the platform. So now that I've talked the entire time, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Where did you grow up? And did it have any impact on you being an entrepreneur?
Not far from you, man. I grew up just outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Okay. All right.
Little town called Lewisberry. And before you say, oh, I know Lewisberry, no, you know Lewisburg. That's bigger. Lewisberry is tiny. It's a little postage stamp. But yeah, I grew up there. I went to Redland High School, and when I was there, we had a state championship baseball team. So we were kind of a big deal back then. I didn't play on that team, but that's how you might know about Lewisberry, Pennsylvania. Okay. Yeah, I grew up there, and then how did that affect my entrepreneurial journey? I think so my dad's an entrepreneur. He's a lawyer. So if you classify that as an entrepreneur, he hung out his own shingle and ran his own law firm for many years in Lewisberry, Pennsylvania. And so I saw that, I saw that end of the spectrum. And then I don't know, when I was in college, I got exposed to Silicon Valley. I went to school in North Carolina, so I wasn't anywhere close to Silicon Valley, but I became aware of what Silicon Valley was and started to get excited about all the technology that was coming out of there, changing all of our lives. And it just looked so exciting to me. I was drawn to it. So I don't know. Growing up in Lewisberry just made me want to get out to Silicon Valley where the action was, I guess. Maybe that's the biggest impact that it had on me. And then when I got to Silicon Valley, I was super excited to be there and, still am. I live part-time in San Francisco and still love the energy in this town and love to see all the crazy new stuff that, it's coming out so fast now. It's really fun to be here.
Do you ever catch yourself or find yourself thinking, saying, doing anything that you saw your dad doing as an entrepreneur growing up?
Yeah, I mean, he and I are both workaholics. He would wake up really early in the morning. He'd go to the office. He'd probably go to the office and then come back for breakfast or see the kids and whatever. And then we go off to school and then go back to the office. And he was there late at night. So I got my work ethic from my dad for sure. And I got my, wake up early and get stuff done as early as possible, approach to life from him as well. So yeah, I mean, I picked up those things. I picked up a lot, also his frugality. I'm a pretty frugal guy. My dad's so frugal that there are other words that are probably better suited,
Sure.
cheap, like cheap.
Sure. Yeah, don't say it on here. He may listen to this show. Then
He might.
Somebody will tell him he made a cameo or appearance on the show. Is there anything that you feel like you've tried to do differently than him?
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot. So, I He thought about moving out to California when he was a kid too, or not kid, I guess after college. He and my mom met in Elizabethtown College in central Pennsylvania, also not far from you.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought about moving out to California and they decided against it. They decided to stay in Pennsylvania for a variety of reasons. They had a lot of their family there and they like the change of seasons. And so they stayed in Pennsylvania. The thing I did differently was like I kind of realized that I'd be in the game more if I moved out to California, if I moved out to San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. Like I think that's probably like one of the biggest decisions I ever made was moving out to Silicon Valley and being in the middle of it. And then I did that, and I could say because of good planning on my part, or dumb luck, or a combination of the both, I ended up at Salesforce as a really early employee, and that turned out to be a massive success. So I didn't just get to Silicon Valley. I actually got a seat at the table in one of the most interesting companies
Mm-hmm.
that redefined enterprise selling. And then I got to build an incredible network based on that. And so those are the things I did differently. I think if I look back at the kind of specific decision points that took my life on a different trajectory, one is just the decision to move to San Francisco and
Yeah.
be part of Silicon Valley. I think that's a huge one.
Yeah. I mean, it was
Yeah.
a risky move. It was
It was.
not guaranteed that you would end up running a really cool company and like
Yeah,
learning a bunch of shit and being part of. Do you know what number employee you were at Salesforce?
I do. Yeah, that was number 36.
Wow. Okay. You
Yeah.
said early. I thought you were gonna hit me with a triple digit number, and I had to pretend to be impressed. But 36 is actually really impressive for that number. That's a
Yeah.
really actually impressive number. Okay. All right. Well, let's fast forward. I'm sure there's a bunch of interesting stuff. What I am interested specifically today is where did connect the dots come from? How did you start it?
hmm
Who was the first customer? Give me the elevator pitch, and then tell me how you got it in the door to somebody for somebody to try
Yeah.
out.
So the whole idea came from those early days at Salesforce. Because we were such a small company, we were all in one room, literally just one room. And so everybody from, Mark Benioff on down to me, because I was probably about the lowest man on the totem pole at that point, we're in the same place. And because of that, and also because we were a Silicon Valley company where everybody had equity in the company, I was so excited because I wanted to be in Silicon Valley, but I was also so excited because I wanted a piece of the action. I wanted
Mm-hmm.
equity in a hot startup that was going to go public. Guess what? I got it. It all worked out great. But that made me work incredibly hard. So I worked my ass off for 10 years at Salesforce. It also made everyone completely aligned. So everybody in the company wanted me to succeed. It was awesome. It was such a great environment to be in because I was surrounded by all these really smart, talented, ambitious people who all wanted me to succeed. We were on the same team, and just like the Redland High School, state championship baseball team. If anybody got a home run, everybody won, right, on the
Right.
team.
Yep.
Same thing at Salesforce. If I closed a big deal, everybody was like, "Yes, we're one step closer to that IPO," and so that made a huge impression on me. Growing up on the East Coast, most people didn't have stock options. It wasn't something you even thought of, right? You just got a paycheck at your job.
At the coal
And
mine. At
at the coal mine, that's right.
some industrial warehouse. Yeah.
That's right. You got a paycheck and you got a lung disease.
Yep.
That's what you got from your job.
Yep.
And then San Francisco, we got stock options and we got completely aligned. And it was this big magnet that attracted, really talented people. And so that was one thing, seeing that everybody was aligned, had these aligned incentives, made me realize that I could ask anybody for any favor at all if it helped the company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they would do it
Yep.
because it was in their enlightened best, self-interest. And so I started asking a lot because I was from the East Coast. I literally didn't know anybody west of the Mississippi when I moved out there. But now, Mark Benioff, he would do me favors because it was in his best interest, right? So I realized like we're trying to crack into Apple, which is not as big as it is now back then, but still big company. And I didn't know how to get in there. They weren't replying to my phone calls and my, emails. And I asked Mark, do you know anybody there? And he knew somebody, a pretty senior exec. And I said, will you send him an email if I write it for you? Like, I've thought about what the value proposition is for Apple. He's like, yeah, absolutely. Send it over. So that began a thing that we started calling connect the dots. So I would write the email just like Mark would write it. And back then in 1999, Mark was using a BlackBerry and everything was lowercase and no punctuation. So I just write it exactly like that. So he wouldn't have to, so it didn't look obvious it was from
Sure.
somebody else. It would look like it was from him. He'd copy it, paste it, send it out. We get, he'd get a reply from the exec at Apple or whatever company, and then he and I would drive down and go have a meeting. And that's how we got in the door. And then and Mark would kind of fade away, and then I would run the rest of the sales process. We kept doing that over and over again. We called that connect the dots. And I didn't just do it with Mark. I used it with our board members and the other executives who came into the company and our customers when they loved us and they were willing to make introductions for us. I'd do the same thing. Just like, here, I'm going to draft you what you send to that person. And that was amazing. The thing that was just always kind of stuck in my brain was like, ugh, if I could only get into everybody's brain and see
Right.
who they really know, who are all the people that they really know,
Yep.
and then do that across our entire company because our entire company was aligned, right? We all had stock options, and so everybody wanted to help out, but it wasn't. I didn't know who to ask for what. Like the reason I knew to ask Mark for those intros is because literally was just sitting next to me in the office,
Right.
and I'd be like trying to break into an account. You have anybody there? And he's like, yeah, I do somebody there. So that's where the idea came from. And I think you had a two-part question, Jay, and I think I only answered part
But I
one.
have another question about some of that stuff. So, where is the alignment really as simple as the right incentives?
Yeah,
I mean,
it
that
really
was it.
is.
I mean, that was really it, right? I mean, like we're talking
Yeah,
about like what everybody would be willing to do. You guys weren't like curing cancer. You were selling enterprise CRM software, so it wasn't like
yeah,
you guys had like a mission to do something altruistic. Like you, I mean, I don't mean that there was anything wrong with that. I'm just
sure.
genuinely like it's if it was that simple. It was like you guys, it was you felt like you had some piece of a rocket ship, and they're like, hey, if you want to ride it, you can have a piece of it, but you got to do this shit. And so everybody's kind of in on it together. I got stock options here in 2000, whatever, 10 for some startup, and it was
Mhm,
like not that.
mhm.
It's more akin to kind of what it is now. It's like it's a lottery ticket. You just have, I never got to experience the days where like people were really genuinely like excited about, a tech company stock option that may go IPO. Like that's a really cool kind of like almost like a piece of
Yeah,
history, right? Because like you were part of like
no,
something that was like,
it's it's not history though. That's happening all around me right
yeah,
now. Like my
yeah,
neighbor works at Mercor. I don't know if you know those guys,
yeah,
but
yeah,
they're like
yep,
the
yep,
fastest company, $0 to $100 million. And she's got options in that company,
right,
and who knows what's going to happen with that company, but that company could be insanely valuable very fast. So like that is actually one of the things, Jay. Like I've noticed this is like growing up on the East Coast, stock options kind of a mythical, unknown type of thing, probably not valuable,
yep,
or you read about it in some sort of
mm-hmm,
stories that don't seem real. And our company is partially based in Serbia, in Belgrade, so I'm back and forth there a lot, and we've had a lot of team members who I think probably feel that same way too. Now we have some that are just like they get it. They're like they know that this can be massive if we get this thing
sure,
right.
yep,
But I think a lot of people in Serbia are just like it's almost like a mythical being. It's like, okay, fine. There's a paper that says I own some, shares of this company, but I don't expect that's going to be worth anything more than just the paper that it's printed on.
yep,
And the thing that was different in Silicon Valley when I got there in '99, and it was you could feel it in the air. There was electricity
mm-hmm,
because it wasn't theoretical. You were surrounded by people who were driving Ferraris and like
yep,
had massive crazy houses, and like it was real. It was like
yeah,
all around you. And and to be candid, like I'm not actually super attracted to the Ferraris and the massive houses. That's not really my thing, but I'm absolutely attracted to the success.
sure,
There's no question about it. I love like people doing things and actually having a real large impact.
yep,
And I saw that all around me, and it was not hypothetical. Like the people I was working with, you know, Mark was already a really rich guy at that point from Oracle stock,
right,
making him a lot of money and a bunch of other investments that he'd made. But he wasn't the only one. We had a bunch of other people in the company and our board members. They had done very well in their,
mm,
with equity. And
yeah.
so it was not hypothetical. It was very real, and everybody was showing up here to, be part of that very real thing.
Yeah, I love that, and it's just an interesting because it's. I mean, I still talk to people all the time, every day that work somewhere. They're just like, yeah, they are tethered by the mythical whatever. Like maybe this
Mm,
certain they do. There is that. It's a weird connection on the East Coast, and I think there's a whole East West Coast kind of mentality kind of conversation that we could have that could probably because it's just it is very interesting. And like I had never been to San Diego until last November, and I had a picture of what that was, and it just felt So there's a difference in soul, I think, like,
Mm,
in, on different coasts, and I think it means different things and how people work and how fast they think. And but anyway, yes, I love that you kind of felt that difference and got to experience that because most people don't. Most people get it,
yeah.
and it's just like, I should stay here because maybe this piece of paper turns into something and like whatever. So, all right. So the second part to the original question was, who was the first customer? You guys went out, you had this
Hmm.
idea, and you're like, all right,
Yeah.
so you go build this platform.
Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah. So
Did you raise
I,
money for this, by the way? How did you get this
mhm.
kicked off? Like, how did you get it started?
Yeah, we raised money. We've raised several rounds. We've raised about 27 million at this point. And we did it through, we had a seed investor that I knew through Salesforce. So he was at Salesforce when I was there, and then he went to Emergence and then started his own fund. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was our seed investor. And then RA was led by Norwest Venture Partners. Also somebody else who had been an executive at Salesforce and now was a partner at Norwest. So there is a really good
Sure.
connect the dots story here about just these relationships via
Mm-hmm.
our network and how they open up doors for you. So our first customer, I don't think I've ever spoken this to, outside like publicly, was a company called Skyflow, and they are no longer a customer. They churned. Now I hope we get them back at some point because I think, and I keep a journal pretty much every day. I write down, kind of highlights of what happened that day, and it just popped up a little while ago, and I think it was like 3 years ago that we sold that deal. And so I got my journal is an electronic journal, so it like popped up and said, "Hey, 3 years ago you wrote this." I'm like, we closed
Mm-hmm.
this deal, and it was a small deal. It was like it was like $5,000 or something like that. But we didn't know we had a product that we could sell yet at all. We had a product that we had been giving away to companies, and so we had a bunch of companies that were using it for free,
Sure.
kind of like begging them use this and give us
Mm-hmm.
feedback on it. And this is the first one that saw enough value and it was like, yeah, okay, that scratches the itch that we've got, and I don't see anybody else doing anything like this. So they paid us, and we both learned the hard way. Apologies to the Skyflow team because it was like, we definitely learned all of the things that were wrong. We're not all of
Mm-hmm.
them, but lots of the things that were wrong with the
Sure.
product
Yep.
during that period of time. But that was also a relationship because I knew the CEO of the company from Salesforce, and I had been talking to lots of I had canvassed a lot of people that I knew from my Salesforce network, and he hired a new head of sales who was trying to Jay, like I think you were saying before the call, you're really like a relationship seller,
Mm-hmm.
and he had hired a new CRO that was a relationship seller, really wanted to leverage the entire network of the company,
Sure.
and they didn't have any good way to do it. Everything looked manual, and so they were like, well, let's take a bet, a relatively small bet on
Mm-hmm.
connect the dots, and that was our first deal.
Hell yeah, dude. And how do they look as a customer or persona compared to who you guys are going after today? Or is it the same type of company?
They're on the smaller side for the companies that we target now. So we've been kind of steadily going up market,
Mm-hmm.
but our product, and this is actually just, I think today it's released today for the first time. We have a product that's designed for like SMB companies that
Mm.
self-service. It's called the Team Edition, and
Okay.
you can go. You don't have to now for the first time as of today. If you want to use our product for your company, you don't have to talk to our team. You
Mm-hmm.
can just go to our website, you can sign up for Team Edition, swipe your credit card,
Sure.
and add the users that you want to use, and you're off to the races. Up until now, we didn't have a self-service onboarding.
Mm-hmm.
We would implement every customer with our own customer success team. And so I guess the reason I bring this up is we're going up market kind of steadily, like, average customers are a couple hundred to a couple thousand employees. That's kind of
Mm-hmm.
the ballpark that we play in.
Sure.
But if you're in the, single digits or a couple dozen employees, we have a great product for you as well. And you don't have to, and it's cost effective for us. You can just
Yeah.
come in, sign up and use it,
Well,
and
that's what
no
I
charges.
need. That's what I need. I need the one for like, because I may not have a lot of people, but I have a ridiculous network. And like, so I
Yeah,
need to leverage it through a tool like this.
bingo.
And I think that's most agency owners, right? I mean, like, well, I mean, I'm an introvert by nature, so I've like forced myself to like go out and be whatever. And like, you have to network. Like, if you run a business in a place, like, that's just,
Hmm.
it's made for people like us. But also, I see the big value in those, the bigger spaces with teams. So it makes a lot of sense. I do. Is the tool And I'm not like, I don't know. I don't have an MBA. I don't know anything about sales. I just figure it out every day. That's why it's fun. But
Best way
like,
to do it.
it is. It's every day's great. It's just the most fun. I just love it. I really do. But is this tool better for certain types of salespeople than others? Like, are there some
Yeah.
people who don't really like, because I am a relationship guy, I know there are other people who don't really sell that way and are more like volume, I guess, or more like some
Mm-hmm.
other sales methodology. Is this not
Yeah.
as good for somebody like that?
Yeah, it's not for volume. There might be some use of our network for volume selling at some point,
Sure.
but but we're kind of the anti-volume selling
Yeah,
platform.
yeah. No, I
We,
love it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because it's basically, and I'm working on a thought piece right now that I'm co-authoring with one of our, the marketing exec at Norwest, who works with a lot of B2B, B2B sales organizations and marketing organizations. We're we are in this thought piece, there's too much to like talk about the whole thing, but there's one thing
Sure.
I'll laser in on is everybody's looking to automate everything right now. AI makes that possible. So the volume of like marketing is crazy and it's getting
Mm-hmm.
crazier. And the we're calling it the anti-automation signal.
Mm,
And that is if you can see across your entire network as a company that you've got a strong relationship with the person or one of the people that you need to get to at a company, then don't automate that.
mm.
Do it like do the actual
It's like
person to
preventative.
person. Yeah.
Preventative. That's why I don't do that type of selling. I don't sell that way on like because I don't want to come back to that same person and that guy be like, "Well, fuck that guy. He just like sent me a bunch of automated shit. Now he wants to talk
Hmm.
to me like a real person." It's a great idea. I love that.
Yep.
Love it. All
Yeah. I
right.
mean, just if you think about it, if okay, you want to sell to Acme, and they're just part of a list of like 2,000 target accounts, and so you have this blast email account going out to everybody, and everybody's deleting all those emails because they're cold emails. But then you can see that like your VP of finance has a strong relationship with their CFO. Why are you automating that? Just ask. And there is a thing that we can build the workflow for you so that you see that. And then we propose to you, say, hey, ask your VP of finance to talk to their CFO.
Yep.
That's it. That's it. And then when you do that, you get the meeting and then the whole thing works as opposed to the whole thing just being a waste of time.
And also, everything else is a waste of time. If you have that connection and it works,
Yeah.
why are you automating why are you talking to anybody else at that company? You've got your in at the executive level, so what are you doing? All right, I mentioned this beforehand because I wanted you to get a little bit ahead of it, but why can't somebody go to Claude Code or whatever today
Mm.
and say, "Hey, make me connect the dots"? Like, what is
Yeah.
protecting that for? I mean, it's a really great idea, but it's like almost as soon as you put these ideas out there, now it's like, shit, should you be scared? Now, you guys have been
Yeah.
doing this for a while and you have some infrastructure in place, and there's a lot of stuff that I think you guys have, and maybe that is part of this answer. But just in general, like, how are
Yeah.
you in the future kind of thinking of shit? How do we keep this proprietary enough
Yeah.
that we can keep it safe?
Well, I mean, you ask a great question because everybody should be asking themselves this right now. What is the moat? And you hear a lot. So we're a network effect company. Network effect companies have a built-in moat, and that is the network. The fact that they need the network to work. You can't just do this by
Mm,
yourself. So you can't just build our product and use it for yourself and then have a network. You don't have a network. All you have
mm,
is something that you are using yourself. We built the product so that this is a global graph of relationships, which means it's more like a Facebook or an Instagram or a LinkedIn. So it's something
mm-hmm.
like that. And so the same reasons that those companies have, they have moats
Yep.
because of their network work effect. We have the same mechanic in place.
Yep.
We're not nearly as big as those networks at this point, so the network effect is not as strong. But
Right.
our goal is to grow the network as fast as possible and dig that moat deep and wide.
Are you guys
Uh,
gonna add a bunch of other shit on there? Like, can you see if like who on Facebook like my COO is like friends with? Because like, I mean, I think obviously we're just scratching the surface,
yeah,
and it's like social is a whole other thing. You guys, can you do
yeah,
that? That was another question, just in general. Like, what is the TOS kind of stuff for this with
yeah.
LinkedIn and whatever else? Like, what does that look like for you guys?
Yeah. I mean, that's a big complex topic and we'd need probably,
Sure.
30, 40 hours to talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
all of it. But the short answer is yes, we're expanding all of the things that you can connect the dots. So you're using it as an individual user right now, I
Yep.
think, right? You haven't
Yep.
signed up as a
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
So we have a product for individuals and then we've got products for companies.
Yep.
But it's all built on the same foundation. So if you set it up as an individual, you can connect whatever you want to connect to it. Right now your LinkedIn contacts, and all of your email contacts
Mm-hmm.
from every email account that you connect to it. And then we do a bunch of magic by looking at publicly available data and then organizing that to augment your view so that you can see other connections too based on publicly available data. Like, maybe you know me, you got a strong relationship with me, and then I worked with somebody for some period of time
Yep.
at a small company, and you can intuit that from that I have a strong relationship with that person, and you would ask for that introduction.
Okay. So building social into
The,
this is part like
yeah,
more
the
social stuff, right? And but where does that ethically like where do you guys stand on that? Like where is it like okay, this is kind of weird because I know that like my COO was friends with somebody that liked a Facebook post of a person I want to talk. You know what I mean? Like is there a point where you go like, ah, this is like too connecty, like it's we're digging in too deep, or is it not?
well, some of
I
that
would say
stuff's
no as
like
a person who is the ultimate business related. I will go, if I see somebody I want to meet is at a concert, I'm going. Like I don't like
yeah,
that's the level I'm at.
yeah,
So that's my thoughts. So what is the
yeah.
platform's view of that?
Well, I think users should be in control of, how much they want to appear or not appear on the network, right? So, it's up to you do you want to be a node on this network or not? But, and I haven't really thought deeply about like, you know, social cues, like you're going to be at a concert or an event or something like that, and then showing up to, to try to see that person. I haven't thought super deeply about that.
I've never actually
I've,
done that, by the way, just in case anybody thinks I'm a lunatic. I just use that as an example of how
yeah.
intense I plan. In my head, that's the type of seller I am. So I just want to
Well, yeah.
clarify. I haven't actually done that to anybody yet. At least I'm going to say publicly.
One of my investors is hosting an event for all their portfolio CEOs next week, and like, they sent out the list of who's going, and a lot of them are good prospects for us. And so, that's an example of like I know they're going to be there. I'm going to be there.
Yep.
I'm planning on it. I'm thinking about the things I want to say to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to answer let me go back and make sure I answer your first question correctly or thoroughly. Yes, we're going to let you add all the ways that you're connected to people. So,
Mm-hmm.
if it's coming soon that you'll be able to have your contacts from your iPhone or Google contacts, WhatsApp people that you've communicated with, Slack, you name it. Like
Mm-hmm.
all the ways that you communicate with people or wherever you track your relationships, we're going to let you add that so you have a complete picture of all of your
Yep.
relationships.
Yep.
And that's yours as an individual. So that you, Jay, own that and you keep that for life. And if you go work for companies throughout your life, that's yours. That's
Yep.
yours. You keep that with you forever. And then if you plug into a company, you go work for that company, and hopefully you've got stock options, so your incentives are all aligned. Then you can bring your network to bear and say, like, hey, these are all the people I know. Let me know where I can help sell or
Yep.
recruit or fundraise or whatever, because we're all going to get rich if we do this right.
Yep.
And then when you leave that company, hopefully with a bag full of money, from your IPO, you still have your network and you take that with you wherever. So that is how we are architected. We're architected with the individual first. Like this is your relationship network, and we want you to make it as big as possible by connecting everything to it
Yep.
possible.
Love it. What about like manual stuff? What if I'm like meeting people in person? Is the preferred method, I guess, to have them in some sort of CRM that's connected to connect the dots, or is there like a manual? Like, if you're an event guy, like how do you kind of
Yeah.
pipe those guys in, or do you?
We don't have anything specifically built for that today, but hey, after this show, you should talk to my co-founder
I'm
Ian
gonna go
because
tell him. I'm gonna go. You know, what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna make it in Claude myself. That's what I'm gonna. I'm just kidding.
go for
No,
it.
I should. Drew, you're awesome. I love the story. I feel like we've talked for much longer, and I'll probably have you back on so we can. I have one final question for you, non-business related, non-connect the dots related. If you could do anything on Earth and you knew you wouldn't fail, what would it
Mm-hmm.
be?
I mean,
That's the right
how
answer so
about like
far. The
how
right
about
answer so far.
how
Yep.
about end poverty, suffering,
Yes.
and death?
Sure. You can't fail,
Yeah,
buddy. You did it.
yeah.
Congrats.
And
Woo!
end
Drew this.
poverty, suffering, and death. Yeah.
That's it. I mean, you hit
Yeah.
the big three. We're done. That's it.
All right.
I guess we can just focus on the fun stuff now.
All
Drew, you're
right.
fantastic. I don't gush about platforms like this. None of them do what I want them to do or are what I want them
Yeah.
to be. And this like solves a problem for me. And you may not find anybody else who will just love it genuinely as much as I do. And I appreciate the thought behind it and the roadmap and all the shit you guys are doing. So keep it up. Let's stay in touch. And if people liked what they heard about you today and want to reach out specifically to you, how do they reach Drew?
Yeah, you find us on our website, ctd.ai. You can set up an account. If you heard what Jay said and he loves it,
I love
you
it.
should get one too.
Yep.
And then if you want to reach me specifically, I'm available at drew@ctd.ai, or you can find me on LinkedIn.
Beautiful. Drew, you're fantastic. Thank you for being on. I will be actively not just monitoring, but participating in your journey. And thanks for being on, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. See ya.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Drew.